Every year, humans dig up about 50 billion tons of sand. It is the most extracted solid material on the planet, second only to water among all the things we pull out of the earth. There is enough of it taken every year to build a wall 27 meters high and 27 meters wide that wraps all the way around the equator. And despite that, the world is starting to run short of it. Not all sand, a specific kind, the kind that almost everything you live inside is made from. In a few parts of the world, people have been killed over it. One of them was a journalist in central India, run down in the road in 2018. The substance he died investigating was sand. How the most common material on Earth becomes something worth killing for is a story about a very particular kind of grain and about what happens when demand for it outruns the places it comes from. Start with the scale, because the scale is the part that doesn't sound real. 50 billion tons a year. Sand is in the concrete of every building you have ever entered. It is in the asphalt of every road you have driven on. It is melted into the glass of every window and every screen, and refined into the silicon inside every chip. Modern concrete is roughly 2/3 sand by volume. To make a single ton of cement takes something like 6 or 7 tons of sand and gravel pulled out of the ground. Global demand has gone up 5-fold since 1970, and it is still climbing around 6% a year, driven by the simple fact that more of the world is building cities than ever before. So here's the tension that runs under everything else. Sand is one of the most abundant substances imaginable. It covers deserts that span entire countries, and we are using it faster than the planet can replace it. Both of those things are true at once, and the reason they can both be true is the part almost nobody knows. In 2009, Dubai finished the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa. Dubai sits in the middle of one of the largest deserts on the planet, surrounded in every direction by sand. To build the Burj Khalifa, it imported sand from Australia, shipped it across the Indian Ocean, because the sand outside the door was the wrong kind. The difference is the shape of the grain. Sand in a desert spends thousands of years being moved around by wind. As the wind pushes the grains, they collide, over and over, grinding against each other and against the rock around them. Every one of those tiny impacts knocks an edge off. After long enough, each grain is worn down to something close to a smooth, rounded sphere. Under a microscope, it looks frosted and pitted, like sea glass. Smooth, round grains do not hold together. Pour them into concrete, and they behave like marbles, sliding past each other under load. What concrete needs is the opposite. It needs angular grains, with sharp edges and rough faces that lock together when they are pressed into a mass. The way crushed gravel knits into a solid block. And the only thing that makes sand like that is water. River sand, lake sand, sand from floodplains and the seabed is younger and sharper because water cushions the grains as they move and protects the edges that wind would have ground away. So the usable sand, the sand that holds a building up, is not the sand in the desert. It is the sand in rivers and coastlines, a narrow, specific subset of all the sand there is. That subset has an economic problem built into it. Sand is cheap, and sand is heavy. A ton of it sells for a few dollars, and moving heavy things costs money. So the math only works if the sand comes from close to where it is used. You cannot profitably ship ordinary construction sand across an ocean. Dubai did it for a record-setting skyscraper, where cost was almost no object, and that is exactly why it stands out. For nearly everything else, the sand has to be local. Local sourcing changes who controls the supply. The value is not really in the sand. It is in owning the riverbed nearest the construction site. Whoever physically controls that stretch of river controls a resource that a growing city has to have and cannot get anywhere else cheaply. In places where demand is exploding and regulation is thin, that control is worth a great deal of money. And money like that tends to attract people willing to take it by force. The sand mafias did not appear out of nowhere. They are what you get when a heavy, cheap, surging commodity can only come from a place someone can stand on and guard. In India, illegal sand mining is run by organized networks that strip riverbeds at night, outside any permit or limit, and sell to a construction industry that does not ask many questions. The people who try to document this or stop it are in real danger. Sandeep Sharma, the journalist from The Opening, was killed in Madhya Pradesh in March 2018 when a dump truck ran him over on a road. Closed circuit footage showed it was deliberate. He was not the only one. A reporter named Jagendra Singh died from burns in 2015 after a raid on his home. Others have been shot by gunmen on motorcycles. Police officers and local officials who got in the way have been run down by trucks carrying illegal sand. The same pressure plays out between countries, with less blood and higher stakes. Singapore has expanded its own territory by roughly a quarter since 1965, building new land out into the sea, and that takes enormous amounts of sand. It bought that sand from its neighbors, and the trade turned hostile. Whole islands in Indonesia have disappeared, dredged away grain by grain, until they dropped below the water. Around 24 are simply gone. One after another, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Cambodia banned the export of sand to Singapore. The numbers around that trade do not line up. Singapore reported importing more than 70 million tons of sand from Cambodia over about a decade. Cambodia, for the same period, reported exporting only a small fraction of that to Singapore. Tens of millions of tons appear on one country's books and not the others. A gap that size does not come from clerical error. It is the signature of sand mined outside the law, in one place, and arriving as legitimate, fully documented cargo in another. The illegal supply and the legal supply, on paper, become the same thing. Step back, and the dependence is close to total. The cities are sand. The coastlines we armor against rising seas. We armor with concrete, which is sand. The glass and the silicon are sand. Even the new land that countries like Singapore and Dubai build to make more room is sand poured into the ocean. Every one of those relies on the same narrow, water-made resource that forms slower than we consume it. There are people working on the way out. Crushed rock can substitute for some construction sand. Recycled concrete from demolished buildings can be ground down and used again. There is research into chemically treating desert sand to roughen its grains enough to bind. None of it, yet, replaces river sand at the scale the world burns through it. So the situation at the start holds. Sand is the most ordinary substance there is, and the usable kind is finite, water-made, and running down. Sandeep Sharma was killed because that sand is valuable. It is valuable because the world cannot be built without it, and we are using it faster than the rivers can make more.